Hello, thank you for joining me. Forgive my voice. I have been teaching for 7 days already and I've lost my voice. So I'm going to do my best. I'll probably re record this video when I have my voice back, but I thought it was really important to share 10 common classroom procedures to teach at the beginning of the year and also throughout the year to have a great school year. So these are procedures I've been teaching for the first few days of school and practicing, and it's really setting up we've had a great start to our school year. So I really wanted to share that with you today. All right, well, if we haven't met, I'm Fleur, the face behind Aloha Monday Teaching, where I help middle school science teachers um, be prepared, intentional, and refreshed for Mondays and any day in their science classrooms. All right, so let's go. Let's get started. 10 common classroom procedures to teach to have a great year. Here are the 10 procedures I will go over today. Entering the room, getting students' attention, getting materials, using the restroom, food and drinks, listening when someone is speaking, interacting in a group, turning in work or papers, packing up and cleaning, and dismissal. And all share how to teach these and some ideas for you, and I'll share what it's like in my classroom. So, to teach any procedure, you have to teach it. You have to tell them what it is, what you expect. They need opportunities to practice, and it's more than one day. I would do this over several days, even weeks, until they really get it. You're going to have to reinforce the things they are doing correctly, and you need to correct the things that they are not doing correctly. So let's go over getting students' attention, and this is how you would teach this. So you're going to teach the signals that you're going to use to gain your students' attention. That way, when they're working or if they're discussing with a group, you can just do a signal and they know what to do, and then they give you their attention. In my classroom this year, I'm trying the doorbell, which is working. The doorbell isn't super loud, so it doesn't work if the classroom volume is louder. But I also do like a call out where I say it's our school name, but in the book, oh gosh, I already forgot what it's called, but the book with the brain-based learning, that book, I'll link it, I'll find it. That they say something like class, and then the students say yes, yes. So it's like a call and respond. The teacher says something, the students reply, but they need to know what to do when they hear the signal. So I like to ask them when I'm teaching it, what do you do now that you heard that signal and I need your attention? What do you do? And they should know that they need to stop what they're doing. They need to be quiet, and they need to look at you to show that you have their attention. And they should also be taught what to do if students around them didn't hear or aren't doing the right thing. And that's usually, you teach them to encourage them, to remind them, or tell them, say, hey, she needs your attention. Then you practice it. So I like at the beginning of the year, I like to do little mingling activities, or like we've done a classroom scavenger hunt, find someone who type of classroom bingo. I did a around the room thing where they filled out their birthdays, those sorts of things. And then you signal and you wait. This is the hardest part because you want to resist the urge to signal again. You want them to do the right thing. So you just wait and you watch them. You watch them stop what they're doing, look at you, and be silent. So when you have their attention, praise them and reinforce them by telling them what they did correctly. You can say things like, great job looking at me when you heard the signal, or you helped quiet others down and look at me when I needed their attention. Or, I noticed that you stopped what you were doing quickly when you heard the signal. You want to use words like I noticed and things like that. Now, let's say that they don't do everything that they need to do. This is when you need to correct them. And you want to do this in a calm but firm manner, not yelling or anything like that, not frustrated. So you need to remind them of what they need to do when they hear the signal. And maybe sometimes they don't hear the signal because, kids, selective hearing. So here are some things that you could say. I've been saying this all week. Remember, when you hear the signal, it means I need your attention. You stop what you're doing, look at me, and you're quiet. And you tell them exactly what it is that they need to be doing. Or if someone is still talking, I do this. So let's say I signal and like some of the class looked at me and they're quiet, but others around them are not. And I'll tell the kids who are looking at me, if someone is still talking, please give them a gentle reminder or let them know that I need their attention. And that works because then they'll tell their neighbors and stuff. And then I have everyone's attention. Or you can say something like at the end, I signaled and half the class was ready, but the other half must not have heard the signal. I don't like to put blame or, assume that they are just ignoring me. So then I ask them, okay, what do we do to help everyone when I need your attention? And then they share what they're supposed to do. And that really helps. So you want to continue this practicing this over the class period and over the next several days or longer with reinforcement and corrections. You want to be consistent. And if you need to make adjustments to any procedure, tell the students, and then you'll have to go through this process again: teach, practice, reinforce, and correct. So that's how you teach the procedure. Those are the steps: teach, practice, reinforce, and correct. And this is something you're going to be doing all year long. Like they'll get it at the beginning and then they're going to forget it during the year. And so you have to do this almost all over again, but it shouldn't be as difficult. Like it shouldn't take as long later on. All right, so let's go through the other procedures. Entering the room. So when they come into your room at the beginning of the class period, they should know exactly what to do. Typically, they should enter quietly, go to their seats, and they should know what to do, like with their backpacks or their water bottles or with papers that they have to turn in, like those kinds of things. You want to give them a visual, post their instructions on the screen or on a whiteboard, whatever your classroom has. And I post a slide that tells them what they need, what their bell work is, and what our agenda is. And I can link that in here. But there should be something for them to do. You don't want them just coming in and sitting. They need to work on something. They need to get prepared. And it would be a good idea for them to do some kind of bell work or bell ringer, like a warm up to get them going, get them in the groove. So here's some things to think about when you're coming up with your classroom procedure for entering the room. Where do they turn in homework or papers? What task will you have them do at the beginning of class? And what do you do if they don't follow directions? And that goes along with the correct part of when you're teaching the procedure. Getting materials. So before I go over getting materials, make sure you've also taught your students your expectation for walking around the room. And that way they know that they don't run to get materials and things. They literally need to be told every single step. Okay, so getting materials. So this includes anything like getting colored pencils, sharpening your pencil, getting a computer, getting the assignment, those kinds of things. So it's important to have your materials ready when students need them. So be very prepared. And if possible, if your room allows it, have your student materials in a designated area. Mine's in a lab table, and my turn-in stuff is in one section. And I'll show you a picture of kind of what it looks like. So you'll want to teach them where things are. And that one way I did that was with my scavenger hunt. They need to know what they are allowed to use and when it is appropriate to go and gather materials. They should also be told like how to take care of them, the expectation when they are using materials. And if you have laptops in your classroom, they need to know what you expect when it's time to get their laptop, use it, and put it away. So here's this on the left is where I have papers for the days of the week and the different kinds of paper, my pencil sharpener. Right next to it is the laptop storage unit, the LSU. This lab table, this is actually a picture when I was organizing, but these things are all inside the lab table, and that's my student materials. That's where they can get things. So things to think about when it comes to getting materials in your procedure in your classroom. Should they raise their hand during instruction to sharpen a pencil or just get up to sharpen it? For me, I have them raise their hand. I don't like when students interrupt when I'm instructing, so they just have to wait. I'll usually pause and let them, especially if we're taking notes, because they need their pencil. What should students do if they need a material that is put away? How will students return materials and clean up? And do students have assigned laptops? All right, using the restroom, next procedure. Students should know when it's acceptable to use the restroom during class. Like, we prefer that they go during their passing period, but it's only 3 minutes. And so they sometimes have to go during class, and that's okay. So they should know how to ask you for permission and if they need a pass or have to sign out. My procedure when they use the restroom is I tell them to take care of business, wash their hands, and come right back to class. Like, I don't want them wandering around and everything. You'll also want to check with your school or grade level team to see if there is a procedure, a school-wide procedure or something. Like ours, we have bathroom passes and a 10-minute rule where they can't go the 10 minutes before or the 10 minutes at the end, or not before, I'm sorry, at the beginning or the end of class. All right, so things to think about. So what are your schools or grade level teams' bathroom procedures? Do they have a limit of bathroom opportunities? Do they have bathroom passes? What if a student has to go and it's an emergency but has no bathroom passes available? And what if a student wanders and just wants to get out of class? We've all had that, I'm sure. All right, next procedure, food and drinks. So typically in a science classroom, we don't allow snack time, but sometimes some teachers do. So if you choose to let your students eat in class, tell them your expectations, and that way you don't have a mess in the classroom or you don't have kids eating food all period long. So they should know when it's time to eat. Encourage healthy snacks and teach them to clean up after themselves. So things to think about. What if a student is really hungry and you have a no snack rule? What if there are student allergies? And what do you do if students do not clean up after themselves? Had that before. All right, so we went over a lot of procedures so far. So we went over how to get students' attention, entering the room. Let's recap. Let me go back some slides. I just want to make sure. Okay, entering the room, we talked about getting materials. We talked about using the restroom, food and drinks. Okay, so that was the first 5. So now on to the last 5. Listening when someone is speaking. This is so important to teach students, and this is something you'll definitely be doing all year long to remind them when someone is speaking, you are not. So they should be quiet and looking at the person who's speaking. So before they start speaking, I tell students, I remind them constantly the expectation and what it looks like to listen to someone. And for example, when they're speaking, I model what it's like. And so I'm listening to the student. And when the student is done speaking, if there were kids like whispering or not listening, I remind them what to do when someone is speaking. Sometimes I'll have the student who just talked to repeat what they said, or have the student who was talking ask them, I'm sorry, I was talking. Can you repeat what you said? I'll do that just so it's respectful to the students. When I correct the behaviors, I rarely point out the student, they know who it is, but I'll generalize and stuff. And I'm always respectful and calm. So think about these things. How do you call on students to speak or share answers? What if a student's not listening? What do you do with a disruptive student? How do you encourage the speaker to talk loudly enough so everyone can hear? And along with that goes interacting in a group. So I like to have my students seated in groups, and they work in groups a lot, like in labs or just having discussions. So they need to be taught how to work in a group. So They need to listen to each other speak. They need to learn how to take turns, how to share the responsibility of the task, and how to hold discussions. So one way I have students take turns is by starting with one student and then they go around the group. And in other videos I'll link and blog posts, I have my desks in fours and I number them 1 through 4. And so I'll say, okay, start with person number 3 and then go around the table and talk about it. And so that's one way that I do it. Or with labs, I'll do the same thing. I'll say, okay, person 1, you're going to get the materials. Person 2, you do this. Person 3. And that way they all have a chance to participate. Shared responsibilities include working on the task that I give them, taking care of materials, and cleaning up. So in order to make sure that everyone is doing their part, we have to monitor. We have to watch our students walk around. We need to encourage them and help them participate by showing them what to do or telling them what they should do. Some kids will sit there until you tell them what to do specifically. And teach them how to have a discussion. So they should be listening when someone is speaking, and they should also feel safe to share their ideas. This has a lot to do with building that safe community, and I'll link that video below. What I did in my classroom this past week was I like to use Kagan Cooperative Learning. They've got some great questions, but I'll do like just simple questions that they answer, and they loved it. They loved that activity, and they all heard each other. We made surfboards. They're so cute. And it was like an all about me thing. And we shared those, and just getting them to be comfortable with each other will help this, where they feel safe to share their ideas. I also post discussion prompts on my wall to help them, like how to start. Like, oh, can you clarify what you said about this? And that way, that's helpful too. Right, so some things to think about. What will you do when students are off task? Because there will be students off task. What if a student doesn't participate at all? What topics will you have them discuss, and how often will you have group discussions or activities? Okay, turning in work, another procedure to teach. Before students begin working, I like to tell them what to do when they're done. And that way they know ahead of time. They'll still ask me, what do I do when I'm done? But, and I usually post it on the screen so they know. And so they know that typically they have to turn in their work. So if students don't finish an assignment, let them know what to do with it. Either they'll take it home, or you can have a spot in your classroom where they leave their things. So there's different ways to have kids turn in work. And no matter what you choose, just make sure they know how to do it and when to turn in work. So you might have them turn it into the basket when they're done. Maybe one person in the group collects all their papers, or they take it home, something like that. And when? Do they get up anytime during class, even while you're teaching? Or is there specific times, like at the end of class or when they're working? So things to think about: where is the best place for a turn-in basket? Where do you store those papers for each class? And what about papers with no names on them? I already have one. All right, next procedure, packing up and cleaning. So at the end of class, set aside some time for students to clean and pack up. I usually give them about 5 minutes, but if we need more time, if it's a messier thing that we're doing, I'll give them more time. Post the instructions on the screen. I always have a visual for them because it's a good reminder for those kids. That way they know what to do, and of course, tell them what to do. And if it's a really messy day, I like to play Magic Piece of Trash. They love this. So I'll go around the room and I'll find like 3 objects or 5, depending on how messy it is. And I'll have those in my head, and the kids will pick up anything they have and they'll show me. And then I'll just remember who picked up what. And at the end, when the room is clean, I'll announce, okay, so-and-so, you picked up this pencil, this person, and then they get a prize. They love it. And then your room is clean. It's a win-win. So think about, how much time do you need to set aside for your students at the end of class, and what do they do when they are done cleaning up and the bell hasn't rung yet? So that's the last procedure we'll talk about is dismissal. So after students have cleaned the room, where do they wait till the bell rings? I've done 2 things. So I've let them just line up at the door, but our classes are humongous. Like I have 36 kids in a class, in 2 classes. And it's like a mob by the door and it becomes unsafe. So I don't let them do that anymore. I have them wait at their desks and then they can walk out when I dismiss them. So think about where they're going to wait until the bell rings and how will you dismiss them. And you can even make it fun. You can play a game at the end, you can play some music, that stuff. All right. So this is from another site. All right, so let's wrap it up. So we went over 10 common classroom procedures to teach, practice, reinforce, and correct at the beginning of the year and also throughout the year. And there's more classroom procedures, but these are like the top 10 to start with. These classroom procedures, these will set you up for a successful school year. And I also shared some strategies on how to teach them and ideas of what it looks like in the classroom. All right, so your turn. Tell me about your classroom procedures and what will you do to help your students have a successful year? And what will you do so that you have a successful year too? So as you start your school year, I wish you the best. It's just be consistent, teach, practice, reinforce, correct those procedures, and it will help big time.